In 3, 2, 1. Can you believe what Sean Strickland said? Can you believe what this idiot said? Oh my god, Sean Strickland has like no brain cells left, honestly. So, in case you didn't hear what went on, Bryce Mitchell went on his podcast yesterday and basically said that he didn't think Hitler was a bad guy. That in and of itself is absolutely preposterous. But then, Sean Strickland kind of goes on this thing on Twitter. Let me pull it up and read it for you. Not defending Bryce, but for the last year, we have been watching bloody kids, dead kids, missing lambs being pulled out from rubble from Israeli bombs. We have been being force-fed that Americans are to blame for these. The truth is complex and gray. Hostage, generations of hate on both sides. We can sit here for hours arguing about cause and who is right and wrong. Bryce is a product of being on the internet too much. Nothing more, nothing less. I've been at a Trump rally thinking, wow, this feels like a Hitler speech. Okay, it is brainwashing. Find an enemy, attack the enemy, rally the people around the enemy. There is a reason why he rallied millions of people to do evil acts. Hate and fear is the easiest way to get people to march in the direction you want. Bottom line, you don't fix hate with hate. In America or the world, Bryce is a product of the internet. But if you guys wouldn't mind, hit the like and subscribe button. Helps with the algorithm, helps grow the channel. What do you guys think? What do you think about this whole situation? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so I mean, first of all, there's a lot to say here. Number one, this is rich, coming from Sean Strickland, who has basically said repeatedly that Muslims do not belong in America. I believe he called Bilal Muhammad like a terrorist to go back to Palestine. He said Islam Makhachev and all these guys are incompatible with being in America. So like, if there is anybody who paints people with the same brush and has like an egregious amount of hate, it's Sean Strickland. And then just a few hours later, he's like, hearing people say free Gaza is like you saying I'm gonna grow wings and fly off this cliff. It sounds great, but this is not reality and it will never be. Peace, even if that means bending the knee, is the only path forward for Gaza. If not, well, look at its current state. So, yeah, I mean, he's fighting in a week. He's probably gonna get beat by Drickus again, and not be champion, and hopefully we hear less and less from Sean Strickland, because just some of these takes, man, are completely, and this is the thing with Sean Strickland. It's like, sometimes he'll go ahead and he'll say something that it's like, okay, yeah, I can get behind that, right? Like, you know, he's really in favor of helping kind of working class people. You know, he criticizes the UFC sometimes for like price gouging fans, and he's like, the real fans are the people up at the nosebleeds. The real fans are the people who, you know, are working their butts off, you know, just to buy the pay-per-view. You know, the people who are here live, like, they're just here to kind of see the fight. They're not real fight fans, right? And, you know, he'll stop, he'll take pictures with everybody. You know, he'll wrestle people on a ski or snowboard. He'll wrestle a fan just for fun, right? Like, all of these things. And that makes me like, okay, you know, Sean Strickland, he's not a bad guy, right? But then he'll go off on, you know, Bilal Muhammad. He'll go off on Islam Makhachev. He'll go off on, you know, kind of all the Muslim fighters, saying that their ideas and their way of thinking and their life doesn't, you know, work with American values or Christian values. And he's like, which, I mean, that's not true. Christians and Muslims lived together in Jerusalem under Islamic rule, by the way, you know, relatively peacefully, right? Christians were allowed to maintain their faith in the early days of Islam. So it's like, that's a whole another thing. But my whole point is that, you know, first we get this crazy thing said by Bryce Mitchell. Then we get another kind of crazy thing somewhat defending Bryce Mitchell from Sean Strickland. And it's just like, it's absolutely insane. It's bananas, the things that he kind of says, because like I said, he'll go off and he'll say something that makes you kind of like him, and then he'll turn around and be like, yeah, Chimaev is gonna get beat up, he's a terrorist, Bilal's a terrorist, 9/11, all these other kind of things, and just say kind of the most despicable thing about, and the thing is like, he trains with so many of these guys, right? Like, he'll train with Magomed Ankalaev and say he's a good guy, right? Knowing he's Muslim and like cares about that stuff, and yet go ahead and say the next thing, right? And it's so funny because I don't think he understands how, like, there's a connection. He just says stuff, right? He has no filter. He just says a thought that runs through his brain. He doesn't filter it. He doesn't process it. He doesn't okay, like, what's the connection here? I think it's just like, that's interesting. Yeah, corporations are evil. And it's like, yeah, okay, a little bit. But then he'll go ahead and be like, but America, freedom, capitalism, that's the best thing ever. But working class people who, can't afford things and And then he'll be like, yeah, Magomed Ankalaev's a good guy. Chimaev's a good guy. Bilal's not a bad guy. They're great to train with. And then he'll be like, Muslims are terrorists and they don't belong in America. Even though it's like freedom of religion, and freedom is like one of the biggest things, one of the biggest American values ever, right? Like, the whole thing was so many people fled to America because they're facing religious persecution in other places in the world, right? So, like, that's been kind of the backbone of what even the 13 colonies were kind of attractive because of that, right? Like, the Puritans were... Anyway, I'll talk history another time. Anyway. So, the point is, Sean Strickland just, like, no filter, says a bunch of crazy things. He'll say something like this, but then he'll go ahead and, say Muslims don't belong in America. He'll say that gays and LGBT and all these, which, by the way, like, those aren't my, I don't agree with that lifestyle and all these other kind of things, right? But at the end of the day, like, freedom is freedom no matter who it's for. If your thing is free speech and your thing is like, your thing is like, okay, absolute freedom. People can choose to do what they want, when they want, where they want, kind of thing, in the privacy of their own home. Then it's like, okay, then how can you be against that? So, anywho, Sean Strickland is a lunatic. He's gonna lose next week. And hopefully we hear less and less from him because, yeah, the hypocrisy is insane. He's a boring fighter. And, him being the face of the UFC, there is a reason why the UFC had, put Izzy there instead. Gave him a title shot instead of a immediate rematch for Strickland. So, that's where I'm at. I thought that what Bryce Mitchell said was absolutely insane. What Sean Strickland said following that, like, not a terrible idea, but just super hypocritical coming from him. And then you've got all the stuff it's just, he plays jump rope between kind of the good guy and the bad guy, and it's wild. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.